unfinished tunnel right here. But that's not what we're here for. Well, let's get into it, freaking. I was with a mate in the city the other night, and we were driving, heading towards the casino. And bloody, he had a point to make. He was schools, talking about schools and education. And he was trying to express that he reckons that schools should be for general knowledge. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. They should, and they are somewhat. Yeah, but I told him, you have to think a little bit about what you mean. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, they do teach general knowledge. He's like, not the general knowledge I'm talking about. And I said, what is that? And he didn't have an answer. And I was like, alright. And he's like, the schools, they're not for general knowledge. I'm like, yeah, no, they're not. I had a realisation, never thought deep into it. I don't know if you guys have either. But buddy, we had a long talk about schools and the system. It's like, ATARs are stupid. And I was like, what makes them stupid? It was like, they're just numbers. Just numbers. They don't have real value to anything in life. I told him that's not entirely true. The ATARs have value to universities. He was like, but school shouldn't be about university. And I was like, why not? He was like, that's how we got back down to the general knowledge. He said, should just be about general knowledge. I was like, well, that's not going to help specifications into fields for jobs. Like, what if we need doctors and stuff? Is like, you shouldn't need to go to uni for that. And I was like, well, you need to go somewhere. You need to go somewhere for it. But his main point was about data. I wasn't a fan of it. And I understand why. I'm not a fan of it either. Especially since the school system ain't exactly set up for learning. Set up set up poorly for learning, I should say, actually. I remember back when I was at high school, not too long ago, a year or two now, but I did alright. Nothing special. I was in some accelerated classes time to time. Actually, yeah, some accelerated classes time to time. If you don't know what I mean by accelerated, like the advanced classes, for like when the average class isn't up to speed with you, you need more to learn. And I definitely needed more to learn. I was very passionate back then about learning and shit. But it soon went downhill. I did not learn a single thing more from those accelerated classes than the average classes, the generic basic ones. The problem, my problem, no one else's, was how we were set up to learn. It didn't quite accommodate me. It accommodated most students. Well, I wouldn't even say most anymore, just some students. And the others were, I'd say tortured, but that's a little bit of exaggeration, but it certainly felt like torture to me, especially. I had a hard time sitting down for class. I had a hard time, I had a lot of energy, I had a lot to learn, and didn't quite understand exactly why we were there. We were there, we were there at school to get a career, to go into the workforce. I didn't quite understand that at the time. Now I understand since I'm working and I'm thinking, can I go back? If I could go back in time, I'd study so I can go into a good career. But I sort of just wandered into my career of carpentry now. I ended up flunking out of the VCE course into the VM course, the trade course, if you're not too sure what that is. And yeah, I just chose what I thought would be best out of the three, which were plumbing, carpentry, and electrician. I thought electrician would be a good job, but the job market for them is quite whatchamacall. It's quite saturated. There's a lot of electricians, so it'd be hard to get work because everyone knows electrician is pretty nice job, high paying, so everyone wants it. But I thought, and this was probably the best decision I made all throughout high school, which one would I get more use from? And I thought the carpentry trade has a lot of skills. Has a lot of skills. Sure, you could do it by yourself, but the skills I'm referring to are the skills that build a house. And one of the most costly things in life is buying a house. So I went with carpentry for that reason, to cut costs on my house in the future. I'll buy the land and I'll attempt to build it myself. That's the idea. Anyways, back to the issue with the school. I, I sometimes think if I could go back, I'd choose to study. At at that time, while I was in high school, I thought I didn't like studying. I hated it. I couldn't do it. But the problem wasn't the studying. I could study if I'd like to, as can anyone. But my point is, the teachers, the school environment, the school system itself, the inbox classrooms, it all made it very difficult for me. The teachers were negative and had their own mental problems, such as inflated egos, and they were pretty nasty. for a role model. They're meant to be guiding you and stuff, but they treated me very poorly. Not all of them, but most. They'd they'd assume the worst out of me, which is fair enough. I was quite energetic. I tried to express myself to the teacher saying I can't sit down. I can't learn in this classroom. I'm I'm distracted by the other kids. I'm too chatty. Can I can I go do something else and just give you the work? Can I not have to be in this classroom with other kids? And it fell on deaf ears. They said there's nothing we can do to accommodate you. I said, alright, that's fine. But when I could get the focus and sit down in that class, those classes, they'd they'd reinforce me with negative beliefs, saying I'm gonna fail if I don't try. I gotta put in more effort. But they couldn't see that I was putting in a lot of effort. I had a lot of things on my mind. There was a lot of violence in my life back then, and my thoughts were constantly racing. Some some friends say it was ADHD. I say it was all the stress from various parts of my life. But the VCE path didn't end up working out for me due to these things. And that's alright. We ended up in VUB, and it's going okay. We landed, I landed myself in a right job that I'm shit at, just as stressful. But what can I do except keep trying until until I make it somewhere. I mean, I've already made it somewhere. I've made it to this job fairly new, couple months in. But yeah, back to the original topic. Frickin' school. ATAR. My friend brought up another point on that drive to the casino the other night. And if you're wondering if we won, I won. My friend didn't. But the whole theme for the night was just let it ride. I won a week's worth of pay. If I was smart, should have held on to it. But promise is a promise. Let it ride. We either walk out with a couple grand or with nothing. And I chose nothing. But anyways, the point he brought up was that we're born to be slaves. I was like, how so? He's like, well, we go to school, primary school, we learn general stuff down in primary school, and then it starts to specify, or whatchamacall, funnel down into specifications in high school. And I was like, yeah. And then those specifications, we can get the qualifications to do a course for a career. I was like, yeah. It was like, in that career, then you can get a job. I was like, yep. He's like, you're a slave. I was like, yep. And I was like, yeah, that's shit. And I was like, yeah, it is, eh? He's like, he didn't fully think about his point, which is fair enough. He's had a couple drinks, but he was saying it shouldn't be this way. I asked him what way it should be, what way should it be, and he didn't have an answer for me, which is fair enough. We went we went a few layers in to the conversation, and there was parts he hadn't fully thought through. But in conclusion, we're born to be slaves to this system. But it's this system which helps us live. The economy, the government, the job market, it's supposed to serve us. But I don't know, if you look around, if you tried working recently, my VC friends, they're having a hard time getting jobs. Now, the only jobs that are easy to get into are the trade ones, because no one wants to do it. No one wants to bust their ass for pennies. It's not exactly pennies, there's a few benefits, but no one wants to break their back for a job. No one loves doing what they do for work. Well, not no one, some oddballs here and there do, but majority of the people hate it, hate their work. But I've realised I had a friend that recently quit his trade job. I've had two friends that recently quit their trade job, and when I talk to them about it, it's not the job they hate. They don't know it themselves, but I listen to what they say. And it's not the job they hate, it's the environment. We're all there to work. We're all there to make money. We're there to make the boss more money. We're there to live, to afford our expenses. But we got to remember we're taking money out of this guy's wallet, our boss's wallets. And the bosses can get a little. Oh no, I've lost my horse here. Oh, there she is. The bosses can get a little uh, temperamental. You know what I mean? Get quite furious when you fuck up. And all colleagues, other colleagues too, like managers, they get quite furious. And my friends, they talk about their trade jobs. And they're like, oh, I hate this, hate this, hate this. The job was never the issue. It was the environment. And yeah, it's just tough. It's just tough being a slave for others. And I was thinking, what can I do? What can I do about this? They're helping me. My bosses, my colleagues, they're helping me by giving me money to afford my living. But I don't want to be a slave anymore. There's nothing wrong with being one, but no, I don't want to be one. Now, I'm not saying I'm afraid of work. I'm happy to work. But I'm not happy to work in these work environments. We're here to get the job done, not to argue, not to insult. No backhanded compliments. Do good work, get the work done. But people are emotional. And yeah, it sucks, I guess. It sucks. Yeah. Born to be slaves.